I've kind of been on a roll with setting goals this year, so hopefully these will actually get read, but really, who knows? Hi, today I'm going to be talking about the 24 books I need to read in 2024. I have a couple of them here. Most of them I don't have. I'll either borrow them from my library or purchase them at a later date. So I've made a couple categories. We're going to start with books that are being released in 2024. The first book I want to read is The Extinction of Irina Ray, and this one's by Jennifer Croft. I think this one is like more literary fiction than I typically read. It's about a translator and it's written by a translator. So I think that'll be cool to see the perspective of an actual translator put into the character. Hopefully it's more like they're drawing from their own experiences than kind of like a Molly Sue or whatever the heck they're called. It's about a group of, I think, 8 translators who go to this famous author's house in the middle of a forest, and they're there to translate her book. But then she goes missing. That's all I know. I don't really like to know that much about books before I go into them, so this video might be short. I also have a full video about all of the books I'm excited for coming out in 2024, so I'll leave that in the little eye up above. In this video, I'm only going to be talking about 4, and those are like the super ones I want to get to. The next one is Womb City by Tlotlo Tamase. This one takes place in a dystopian Haberoni, I'm assuming, in Botswana. It tackles motherhood and bodily autonomy. I think in the bare bones, it's about a woman who is controlled like via microchip by her husband. And I'm really interested in like non-Western feminist perspectives, especially told through sci-fi. So I think this one will be really interesting. Next is just like a super fun one. It's called Floating Hotel, and it's by Grace Curtis. This one is about a hotel in space, and it travels around the universe, and it comes to you instead of you having to go to it. I think it's gonna be cozy, kind of Becky Chambers-esque, I've heard it pitched as. So I think that one's gonna be so cute. Next is Lost Ark Dreaming by Suyi Davies Okungbowa. He wrote Son of the Storm, I believe it's called, which is a YA. I don't typically read YA, but I really like the sound of that one. So I'm excited that he is releasing an adult novel. This one I've seen compared to Snowpiercer. The TV show of Snowpiercer is like my favorite show ever. So like, I have to read it, right? It's about, I think, like a planet that is covered in water, so cli-fi, something I also really love. And then there are like these towers that peek out of the water, and rich people live on the top and poor people live on the bottom. It's giving Metropolis, which is one of my favorite movies. So this is just like a recipe for amazing. So I'm really excited for this one. The next category is series to continue. The first one on my list is Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the sequel, the third in the series that has Children of Time, which is the giant space spiders book, and I loved the first one. The second one I also really loved, but not quite as much. I've heard mixed things about this last one, but I'm still gonna read it, and I'm probably still gonna enjoy it. Then we have Jade Legacy. This one is the third book in the Greenbone saga. I read Jade City and Jade War both last year, which is absolutely unheard of for me. I never read 2 books in the same series in 1 year. I normally wait like a year or 2. I'm so slow at finishing series, but this one I'm just like ripping through, and I actually have already started this one. No spoilers, but I'm already depressed. This one is getting read in 2024 too. After that, we have Harrow the Ninth. I actually just read Gideon the Ninth in December, and it blew me away. I knew I was gonna love it, and I don't know why it took me so long to read this fucking book, but I'm glad I finally did. The writing style is so captivating. It's the whole tone of the book is like really contradictory, really incongruous incongruent. I don't know how to say that word, but like sunglasses on. Is she wearing sunglasses? No, she's not wearing sunglasses. But in the first book, the main character like wears a pair of like Ray-Bans aviators and then is also a skeleton necromancer kind of vibe. It's just funny and silly, and the end broke my heart. And I've heard that this one's even better, so we'll see. The fourth series I have to continue is the #1 Ladies Detective Agency by Alexander McCall Smith. The next one in that series that I have to read is The Full Cupboard of Life. I don't actually have it yet. I accidentally bought the next book after this one instead of this one, but that's okay because I'll read it eventually. These are just cute, light reads for me. I love the characters and they've really grown on me. And I like the setting and it's just cute and sweet. And I know I'm gonna read this one, so it was kind of just an easy one to put on the list so that I at least at the end of the year have 1 out of my 24 read. And the last series I want to finish, and this would be finishing off a series, is Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler. I really loved Parable of the Sower. I kind of thought when I finished that I didn't want to read the second one just because it left such an impact on me and I wasn't sure. Well, you know, sometimes like the second book kind of ruins the first book, but it's Octavia E. Butler and I've just heard even better things about Parable of the Talents. And I do just really want to get back into the universe, get back into the main character's head. I'll read this one. Okay, our next category is pretty basic. It's just fiction. And this is fiction that was published before 2024. The first one is The Free People's Village by Sim Kern. I think this one's just about like anti-capitalist uprising and anti-work and protest. I don't really know. It sounds kind of kooky and the cover is amazing and I just love the title. I'll probably get it from my library. Then is another one like Jade Legacy that I already started reading actually, and it is Temporary by Hilary Leichter. Leichter? This one is so good so far. I'm actually loving it. It's really surreal and weird. It's about a young woman, or like I think she's young. She is a temporary, so she fills in for people's jobs. It's one of those books where unrealistic and surreal things are happening, but it's just normal. And I think that's a really cool tone, and the author is doing it really, really well. And obviously the overall theme of the book is like, again, labor and work and capitalism. So then I really want to read Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. M.L. Wang wrote The Sword of Kaigan, which I never read. I don't know why I didn't read it, because apparently it's like the best standalone fantasy novel ever. And maybe I will read it if I enjoy Blood Over Bright Haven. But Books with Emily Fox was absolutely raving about this, and she's not stopped raving about this one. We normally have pretty similar taste. I think it's like magical, maybe dark academia, which isn't always my vibe, but I think I'll like it. Then I have Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I've never read anything by her. I'm not a Greek mythology buff, but I know a couple of things. Not about this guy though. It's kind of like Pan's Labyrinth? I don't know. Apparently it's hard to get into at the beginning because it's kind of confusing. I kind of like that. And it's just this little guy exploring some labyrinths. I could be totally wrong. That could be not even close to what it's about, but you know, I'll be surprised. That'll be fun. And next is Brown Girl in the Ring by Nalo Hopkinson. Look how freaking gorgeous this cover is. I think this takes place in like a dystopian Toronto. It's giving Parable of the Sower, the summary is, but maybe more like modernized and YA-ish. There's like a crumbling city and the poor have to make do with what they have, and then they get oppressed again. And then we also have The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is about a retired or just old woman pirate. Like, come on. I love a good pirate yarn. I love a older woman character. I love the ocean. I love octopuses. It's gonna be great. Speaking of octopuses, the next book I want to read is The Mountain and the Sea by Ray Naylor, which I think is about intelligent octopuses, and that's it. That's all I know about it. But it sounds good. I don't know what it's about, but it looks good. I don't know. Anything that even kind of reminds me of Children of Time, I will probably read. So the next category is nonfiction. I read most of my nonfiction through audio, but there are quite a few that I like having in physical form so I can underline stuff. So these ones specifically, or at least two of these, I definitely want to own like a physical copy to take notes and stuff, but the other two I'll probably just listen to or get from my library. The first one is Against Techno-Ableism by Ashley Shue. This one's all about techno-ableism, and it's kind of like a manifesto against the idea that disabled people need to be fixed and need to be changed in order to fit into a world that is designed for abled people. And it's kind of talking about how the world should be designed for disabled people to allow them to navigate the world in a way that doesn't disable them. My girlfriend is a rehabilitation engineer, so she works on wheelchairs and stuff, and I think her and her colleagues are gonna read this too. So I think that'll be a really cool perspective to have while I'm reading the book. Next is The Possibility of Life by Jamie Green. This one's about the possibility of life. I've always been immensely interested in UFOs and aliens and cryptids and all this weird shit. I just find it hard to fathom that we are alone in the universe when the universe is apparently infinite. I don't really do science, but I do pseudoscience. I'm excited. I think this isn't pseudoscience, this book. I think it's actual science. I don't actually believe in pseudoscience. I don't know if this is what the book's about, but kind of get away from the idea that we as human beings and the life on our planet need oxygen and water. But it's kind of stifling to believe that every single other life form would also need the same elements and properties that we need. I think that's kind of anthropocentric in a way. I'm not a scientist. Like, I don't really know what I'm talking about there, but I think it's all very interesting. Hopefully this will teach me a few things about the possibility of life elsewhere. I also love the idea of like cute little aliens swimming in the seas of Io. So next, this one I'm kind of like falling for the hype train. The Wager by David Gran. This, you all know, pirates. I love pirates. And apparently this is like super fast paced and told really with a strong narrative. And everyone's talking about it, and I kind of feel like I'm missing out. I haven't read anything else by David Gran, but all of his books, like the concepts intrigue me, but then they kind of seem like they're old men books. But I'm gonna read this old man book. Okay, and the last nonfiction is one I've been dying to read for a really long time, but I've wanted to like have my own copy. It's The View from Somewhere by Lewis Rabin Wallace. This is all about unpacking the myth of journalistic objectivity. And I think in a time like right now, this is particularly relevant and particularly important. I've obviously been keeping up with the news recently because it's been 4 months since Israel started its all-out destruction of the Palestinian people in Gaza. And I think that's really important to keep talking about. And I think the way it's being portrayed in elite media is absolutely abhorrent and disgraceful. And I think this book will definitely tackle some of the reasons why objectivity as a principle is fundamentally flawed. There's a time and a place for objectivity, but there's also a time and a place for truth. Jeremy Scahill, he was recently on an episode of The Bottom Line where they were talking about like the White House twisting media about Gaza, and he was talking about how at The Interpreter they don't believe in the objective truth as defined by corporate elites. They believe in accuracy, and sometimes the truth is just the truth. And the truth is that thousands and thousands of innocent people are being murdered, and the United States is just being despicable. And I think this book will definitely take that idea and grow it and apply it to a lot of different scenarios. I don't really know how to segue from that, but I'm just gonna do it. The next category are short story collections. I love short story collections. I think they're amazing. I can't read them like all in one go most of the time, but I do like to constantly like have one on the go. The one I have on the go right now, which is on my list, is Even Greater Mistakes by Charlie Jane Anders. This is a collection of science fiction short stories. I think they might all be speculative in some way or another, the collections I have on my list. I think I'm about halfway in already, and I'm really enjoying it. Charlie Jane Anders, she has just such fun ideas, and at the beginning of each story, she has like a little description about where she was in her life, what she was thinking about when she wrote each story, which I love that. Octavia E. Butler does that in her short story collection, Bloodchild, and that's one of the reasons that short story collection like really stuck with me. Hearing her thoughts about them really made them like even more powerful. And I think N.K. Jemisin does this too. I could be wrong, I don't remember, but in her short story collection, How Long Till Black Future Month, I think she does that, but don't quote me on that. Next is Everyone on the Moon is Essential Personnel by Julian K. Jarboe. That title is just sublime. I can't imagine a world where I didn't want to read this book. Second to last is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. This one I don't think is strictly science fiction, but it's definitely speculative and weird, and I think some of them are like funny. I like to laugh sometimes. And last but not least is Lesser Known Monsters of the 21st Century by Kim Fu. I think Kim Fu's from Vancouver. I'm not sure. She's definitely Canadian, and she was at the Vancouver Writers Fest when I lived in Vancouver. This one I think is like horror, super queer. There's a sea monster, a Sandman, mesmerizing, electric, and wholly original. I hope so. My friend Mahela got me this, and I'm really excited to read it. I don't know why I haven't read it yet, because this has been on my TBR since like it was announced. But yeah, that's the last book on my list. So those were the 24 books I need to read, no ifs, ands, or buts, in 2024. The likelihood of me reading all of these books in 2024, I think quite low. But right now I'm being positive, I'm having like an optimistic mental attitude, and I'm gonna make it happen. I wanna read all of them right now, so why won't I wanna read them in 6 months? But we'll see. Maybe we'll check back at the end of the year, react to this video, and see how many I actually checked off this list. But thank you for watching. Have a great day or night or morning. I'll see you later.